All right, Trade Pros, just waiting for this guy to go ahead and get started here. And we're live. Lovely. All right, welcome YouTube to today's midday update. This is Mark from TradePro Academy coming at you guys from our headquarters here in Toronto, Ontario on today's actually lovely date of October the 21st, 2019. It is 12:11 p.m. Eastern Time, and let's go ahead and get started on this update. So as Georgie mentioned, not too much on the agenda throughout the U.S. session this morning as far as economic releases are concerned. That being said, there have been a couple of squawks throughout the U.S. session, mainly coming out of the U.S. from Commerce Secretary Ross and from White House Advisor Kudlow. Bless you, Georgie. Um, and what we saw was a little bit of weakness to start this session. Actually, the S&P 500 started off on a bit of a bid into its overnight highs, found a little bit of weakness going into the open, and now we're basically back around overnight highs. So as far as the session concerned, we basically right now haven't done anything. If you look at it from the U.S. cash session open, we've popped our head above the open, popped our head below, but ultimately we're right back where we started, right around the 3000s. What is that noise? Is that the squawk? Okay, that's the squawk. Sorry, guys. And yeah, so we are testing out a new service here. So if you guys do hear anything in the background, that might be our squawk. Cut it off. I'm still running it on my side here as well. So that's cut off, but I've got it here. So maybe you guys will be able to hear somewhat of the squawks if anything does come through throughout this update. So what you guys will see throughout the US session, we did have, as I mentioned, two squawks coming out of the States. The first one was basically from White House Advisor Kudlow. And if I scroll on back to see when that actually came through, it was around 9 a.m. or so. Where is Mr. Kudlow? Here it was. So this was 8:36 a.m. prior to the U.S. cash open. We had Director Kudlow saying that there is a chance that the U.S. December tariffs on China could be taken off if phase one talks go well. All right. So you can see they're kind of trying to provide a little bit of optimism into the market here on a potential deal, and especially going into December. You know, December is one of those months where you've got a lot of shopping going on, a lot of consumption going on into the Christmas holidays and into New Year. So, ideally, if those tariffs do not get implemented, your um, your products for Christmas are going to be a little bit cheaper. So I think that's kind of what they're trying to do incognito mode here is talk this up that they might potentially delay or cancel those tariffs on the Chinese in December. We also had Commerce Secretary Ross coming out saying, let's see when this one came through. Mr. Ross, where are you? I can't find it on this one, but on this side here, Mr. Ross said that phase 2 and 3 of China deal is where the meat is. China deal does not have to be complete in November. It has to be right. All right, so that came from the U.S. Commerce Secretary, and that's basically been all of the news that we've had so far. We did have a squawk come through from Trump at 11:54 a.m. mentioning that the trade deal with China is coming along great, and that's basically all that we had on that. Trump also tweeted at 12 more so with regards to the Turkey and Syria issue here, mentioning that U.S. President Trump reiterates his threat that if Turkey misbehaves, the U.S. will tariff its imports and put sanctions on its economy. So kind of going back to what we've been seeing with Trump, taking a very protectionist approach here and basically punishing any misbehavior, as he would call it, by implementing tariffs and using that as a means to kind of leverage his position and leverage it to what the U.S. wills geopolitically. So that's all that we have as far as economic agenda is concerned. Like I said, nothing else on the agenda for the remainder of today's session. That being said, in Canada here, we do have our federal elections today. So if you are Canadian, like us here, make sure to go out and vote. This is it's an opportunity that not everybody else in the world has, and we do have, being in a democratic country here in Canada, We do have that option available for us, as so many in the world do not. So please make sure you do take advantage of that and go out and vote. Doesn't matter really who you vote for. The main thing is that you go ahead and vote. It doesn't have to be who I'm going to be voting for Georgie, but at the end of the day, that vote is important, and you should use it because you don't want to be, um, you know, people that don't have that opportunity. They will tell you that they'd be the ones jumping on it. So make sure you go use that opportunity to vote. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic here. Let's switch over to our charts and get looking at the quote board, and we'll look into some of our key levels going into the remainder of today's session. All right, so before I jump on the charts, you guys will see that transition shortly. Let's address some of our colleagues here in the chat box. So George, hello, good to see you in there. William, always happy to see you in here. In fact, it's not a true midday update if William is not around. Um, Gerald, hello, Gerald from Uganda. Gerald, we are not doing live trades here on YouTube. That is what we do with our community. However, I will show you guys some of the key levels we'll be looking out for, so that you guys know what levels other traders are looking out for. Hello, Annette. Hopefully you're doing well. Yourself, Maurizio, and the young one. And Mayank, good to see you in here as well. All right, so we have done our roll call in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for showing up and taking part in this with me. Let's bless you. Let's jump on the quote boards here. Crude oil, pretty okay volume today, 366,000 contracts. To be honest, we haven't seen the 500 to 550,000 contracts in quite some time. So it looks like volume is kind of dropping off here from what we saw in the summer, and that's okay. And over the summer months, there was quite a little bit of geopolitical tensions. Well, there's a bit of geopolitical tension, so the volume was a little bit greater in the summer. That being said, 366 isn't the best, but it's not the worst either. So okay volume on that front. On a daily change percentage, though, we are down from the previous day's close. That came in at the 85s. We are down at the 53.10s last traded price, and we are currently below the US session open, which was 53.53. And so the fact that we're below previous day close and below the current session open gives us a bit more of a bearish tone towards the session. And S&P 500, this guy has 536,000 contracts. So again, this one is actually very, very light considering the type of volatility we have had. So 536,000, very light. On average, when the market has been moving, we've been seeing around 700 to 800,000 contracts. Again, haven't really seen the 1 to 1.5 million in quite some time. So overall, it looks like volume's kind of drying up. That being said, though, 536 is really light. And if you take a look at the chart, as I'll show you in just a moment here, you will see what that light volume kind of looks like as far as price action and what's been traded. So looking at the previous day's close, everything taken into consideration, we are above the previous day's close, and we are marginally above the US session open, which has given us a bit more of a bullish undertone. All right, so that's what these markets are looking like. As I mentioned when I started this thing, we haven't really done much movement. We've popped our heads above the open, popped our heads below the open, but at the end of the day, we're basically where we started the session. All right, we started the session right here. Like I said, we've popped our heads above the open, popped our heads below the open, back above it, and now we're kind of holding right above that open. So it's not as bullish as crude is bearish, but given the fact that we are above previous day close and above the US session open, undertone is a little bit more bullish. So that's what we have with the quote board. Let's jump onto our pivot charts, see if we can actually use these guys this week or if they remain, not that important. And in this case, yeah, you can kind of argue they're not that important in today's session. What you will see is those previous highs were made on the 11th, sometime beginning of last week, end of last week, and we still haven't been able to really take out those highs. We have made a high here at the 54.50s, kind of sold off from there, rotated up into the pivot on today's session, and we've kind of flushed below the S1, held it as resistance, and now we're kind of forcing another rotation back up into this level. Excuse me, guys. All right, so there is a bit of a fight. This is a 1 hour bar chart. All right, so We're pretty much, 20 minutes into the hour, so another 40 minutes or so left. What you are seeing at the moment, though, is we did make a high around those 53.60s, and we did flush below S1. Now we're kind of holding that as resistance, to be quite honest. So from here, if we can close back under the S1 on a 1 hour basis, I'll likely be looking for a press back down towards these previous lows here around those 52 halves or so. At that point, it might get a little bit more aggressive. You might see a little bit more aggressive buying as we come down into this range. If S1 can close, or rather, if we can close below S1 here on this 1 hour bar, I'll likely move back down to those 52.60s or so. At this point, this is where you could see the bounce, or we could get the breakdown, rotate up, and then look to attack those previous lows down in those 51.40s or so. So that's kind of the way that we're shaping up for this week to start, and we'll keep you guys updated on this as the week goes on. On the S&P 500 here, you guys are seeing. Oh, interesting. So if you guys just heard that, if you guys think my my voice just suddenly went British, that was the actual squawk. So I don't know if you guys heard that one or not, but hopefully you did. That's exactly what a squawk sounds like. Let me hide this because the pivots don't really mean much to me in today's session based on where we're at. So S&P 500, as mentioned last week, 3,000 big level. You can see we've kind of tried it once here, tried it twice here, kind of consolidated, tried it a third time, failed, and now we're kind of coming back in. We are making, smaller, higher lows here within this consolidation. So you can argue that it's starting to look like a buildup for a potential pop, or it might just be building up and break back down. We don't know at this point in time, but as it stands, those 3,010s or so are pretty good resistance. And if I throw these pivots back on here, you can see we're right about at the R1, just kind of trading above it right now. Excuse me. And so if we close back above this R1 on this 1 hour basis, let's see what the R1, I mean, it's stuck between O1s and halves, so I'm going to say it's the 3001 quarter. That's where the R1 is at. If we can close above here, you can see we did close last hour. If this hour we can close back above it, I think we'll have enough room for the buyers to kind of press this thing back up into those 3010s or so, at which point we'll have to see where we can go from there. But I'm kind of anticipating a little bit of upside. It's looking a little bit heavy here around the overnight high, but ultimately, if the buyers can pop the SPOOs back above overnight high, we'll likely get a nice little move. All right, so that's what we got on that front. Let's jump onto our actual tick charts here and have a quick gander at what we're looking at. All right, so here's your crude oil chart, and what you will see for today's session is we've basically sold off the open, and we've remained below the open for a good part of today's session. We did make lows at 52.90s before pressing back up to that open. You can see sellers defended that, and we tried the VWAP, rotated a couple of times, sold off from the VWAP. And so it's still looking bearish to me here. We are finding a little bit of a bounce. Bounce or not, that's fine, let it bounce. What we'll be looking for is basically maybe a move down into the overnight low, back into this region here, find some resistance, and then we'll look to sell it back down. I am seeing a whole bunch of bids sitting right down below these 53s, and so the fact that there are bids down here has me thinking we'll likely make a rotation away from them before we come back down and we look to swipe that liquidity. Back below these lows here, this is where we might start seeing some buying coming in. Right, so the play right now is just a little rotation back up into these 53.35s to 40s, and then look to sell it back down into these 52.85s or so. Once we get here, your option is either it's going to fade back up, or it's going to hang around here, break down, and then continue lower. So you look to play it like that. So if you miss a potential short up here, trade's not done yet. You can potentially catch one here. You don't want to anticipate the breakdown. You want to let it break down, catch the rotation up, and then look to sell that puppy. That's crude. S&P 500 on the tick chart here. Excuse me. You can see we're in a bit of a consolidation, and it's looking a little bit choppy here on my charts. But that's okay. We can deconstruct this chop and get a clear image of what's going on. So on the open, we kind of pressed over the overnight highs, sunk back below them, below VWAP. And we're kind of telling our team to watch out for that VWAP because, as you can see, overnight kind of held as support several times. Granted, here we kind of had a little deviation down, but once we've recovered that, you can see we held it, and then we kind of sunk back through again, another little deviation back above, and now you're seeing it's kind of holding as support. So where do we go from here? Well, we've been kind of rotating this level since, I want to say since 11. So almost an hour and a half, we've kind of been rotating that level. We did have sellers step in around 3004 earlier this morning. So it's no surprise that we are kind of consolidating here. The thing that you have to ask yourself is, where is going to be the next move? The fact that we've kind of consolidated up here instead of coming all the way back down has me thinking we'll likely make a move to the upside out of this range here. We've had a chance to go lower, we didn't, and now we're looking to press the upside. So ultimately, as long as we stay below 3004, I think we'll stick in more consolidation. If we can get back up above the 04s, probably into these 08s or so, back into this previous resistance level here, that you guys will see this zone right around these 08s. So if we can pop up into there, come down in, hold this level as support, then we can look to pick something up for a continuation higher. All right, guys, either that or the other option is we fail to break out here. We pull on back to that, where is that? The 98s or so, where we've got 5-day point of control, a bunch of our view apps. If we pull on down to here, find some support, then you can look to try to pick it up again. Ultimately, I'm seeing orders or offers are sitting right here. Bids are sitting way down below here. So I don't think we'll make a push to this before we get to this. I think we'll try to trade through this liquidity first. If we can do that, then we might come back on down. But ultimately, I think this one's going to get traded first, and then we'll see where we go from there. So that's what I got on both of our markets here, guys. Who's back in here? Ali, GBP, USD, please. Sure, we can take a look at the pound. And Francisco, good to see you in here as well, brother. Hopefully everything's going well. Trading is going nice. You'll be doing it full time soon, like we chatted about. What did I do here? All right, there we go. So we're back in live. Sorry, guys, my thing paused on me. So let's do the Trade Pro Performance Index, and then I'm going to jump in and we'll take a look at some of the pairs that you guys have requested. So if you guys want to see anything else as far as assets, let me know in the chat box and I can take a quick peek at those. So while you guys put in your requests in the chat box, let me show you guys the Trade Pro Performance Index, how our team did today. So on the 21st of October, we had a live positive amount of 66.7%, basically 40, just under 42% up on the session, 25% flat, and 33% down. So that gave us 66.67%. And at the moment, we are hovering at pretty good averages. Our average since we started recording these back in September of 2018 has been around 66 to 67% positive. And so this is a good number here. Really proud of this. Just want to make sure it's correct, which doesn't seem to be the case at this point. Let me just update these figures here, make sure the macros are calculating everything. All right, so 69.31%. So we dropped a little bit, but that's fine. Still doing better than average, and we look to continue October out on a strong note. So that is what we've got. Let's jump onto my TradingView charts. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to switch my software here for the pound and for natural gas, but let's do it anyway. So let me pull up my TradingView. One second, guys. And that's not this one. All right, so let me just pop onto TradingView here. If it will let me. That's the one I'm trying to get on. All right, so let me just check one thing quickly. Natty Gas, where's Natty Gas? Oh, Natty Gas is down pretty hard today. All right, Webcoin, let's have a quick gander at Natty Gas here. All right, so here's Natty Gas. We had a couple of levels on the daily chart, and it's pressing off of this one quite nicely. And honestly, from here, I wouldn't be doing anything. This is a 4-hour chart, so I don't day trade natural gas, nor do I really trade natural gas. But I have this up here as some analysis we did. So nice big level right up here, caused a nice sell-off. We saw a return to it. And if I throw on my volume, there we go. All right, so natural gas, we had a nice sell-off from these 2.36s to the 380s. Nice sell-off down below previous lows. We have kind of recovered that, came up into the level, nice big wick, nice big volume showing a rejection, and then we returned back into there, another nice big rejection on some good volume, and then we tried it again, and now we're kind of pressing off on some pretty impressive volume here. So really at this point, you would be looking for a move down into that previous demand zone, somewhere into here, demand level. All right, so you'd be looking for something kind of like this, move back down into here. You can see as we've kind of approached that, we are getting buying interest coming in vis-a-vis this little wick. All right, so one of two things you can do at this point. Either wait for it to break below that, wait for it to come back up, pull this as resistance for a continuation lower, or what it might do is you might get a rotation back up to these 2.3s, 2.32s or so, somewhere into there. Look to hold that as resistance for a continuation lower. So if you just peek over to the left side, kind of what's happened before this stuff happened, you'll see last time we had kind of a little bit of a move like that. We kind of came down, rotated up, and then sold off. It's kind of what you're looking for. Comes down, rotates up, and then you're looking for the continuation. All right, that's what I'm seeing on natural gas. That's natural gas for you guys. Let's take a look at the pound US dollar. So pound US dollar has actually been a pretty big mover here over the last 2 weeks on the back of this potential Brexit deal optimism. The fact that Bojo, the crunch vote on Saturday, didn't really work out in Bojo's favor, nor did it really work out in anybody's favor. It was supposed to be more of a yes or no, and it kind of was. The result was let's delay the vote, and so they've delayed the vote. What I'm seeing from our squawk here is that Bojo has written or is going to be writing to the European Union to extend this out into January of 2020. I believe, let me see. Yeah, into January 2020. So a bit of a miss on that front. And you know, we have been seeing a lot of bullish momentum. We still have room to the upside. If I draw this across, what's going on? Oh, it's locked. That's why. So if I kind of draw this level across here, you'll see 1.32 to the 1.34 was a big weekly level. And I think that's kind of where we're going to be coming on into. We did break above the 1.28 level here. This is what we were looking for last week with our team. And really at this point, the fact that this has been broken to the upside, we'll be looking for pullbacks down into it. Watch for it to hold out as support for a potential continuation up into those 1.33s to 1.34s. You know, this has been an extended run. The fact that, you know, on the daily chart, It's still, or sorry, on the weekly chart, we are still bearish. This is a bit of a short squeeze, as I mentioned. We couldn't quite get back below those 1.2s before we pulled up. But if you look at the weekly chart, weekly chart trend is still down. The previous swing high was up here, and we're just pulling back. So I am anticipating selling to start coming through. The fact that we are bearish on the macro structure, but on the lower time frame structure, we're still bullish. That's given me a sign that we still might have a bit more upside until that level 1.33, 1.34. Once we get up into that zone, if we do get up into that zone, I'd have a little bit more difficulty looking to get long up here, given the fact that we've come from where we've come. However, I still think if we get a pullback here, as long as these 1.28s hold, we can look for a run back below that level, a strong daily breakdown below that level. We'll likely get a flush back down to cover or to fill some of that short squeeze back up to the upside. So that's what we're looking at. No trade for me personally here. My real next best trade is a pullback down to 1.28, and then we'll look to go from there. So that is what I've got for you guys on today's session. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Don't see any other questions in the interactive chat. The Commodore, where are the sellers? Not too sure what you're referring to. If you can just let me know what you're referring to with that, and maybe I can help you out. But if we don't hear anything, then we'll go ahead and close this sucker out. And appreciate you guys for showing up and hanging out with me for these last couple of minutes here. If you guys will be trading into the latter end of today's session, you know those 3 rules: patience, diligence, and discipline. Until next time, guys, good luck and good trading. Make sure to catch us on the update tomorrow morning. Georgie's going to pop on around 9 a.m. and then I'll be back on here around midday, around 12 p.m. Eastern time, to get you guys updated on what happened over the U.S. session and where we can go from here. So if you guys are new viewers, if this is your first time and you did enjoy this, make sure to smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure to comment on there with what you would like to see going forward. We've kind of been a little bit more flexible with these, and the more interaction we get, I think the more value you guys will get at the end of the day. So make sure to show up, make sure to ask questions, make sure to get that value, and then we will see you guys in the community in due time. Until then, good luck and good trading. This is Mark signing off. Take care, guys.